Ghana, a country whose name has meant gold for centuries, a video went viral. It shows a group of young men, some just teenagers, digging with shovels and pure hope, who pull a massive, shimmering rock from the earth. Their faces, for a fleeting moment, are full of disbelief and absolute joy. Now, that single piece of metal could be worth millions, or it could be worthless. Experts who saw the video couldn't agree if it was real gold or just something like pyrite, fool's gold. But honestly, it doesn't matter. What that rock represents is a life-changing fortune. The kind of money that could build schools, pave roads, and lift an entire community out of poverty. It should be a story about a miracle pulled from the ground. But this isn't a story about luck. It's a symbol of a global conspiracy, the one that helps explain why a continent that is so rich is kept so poor. This is the story of how your phone, your wedding ring, and the entire global economy are connected to a system that loots Africa's wealth. And it all starts with what this one rock represents. What happens to finds like this reveals a hidden system of exploitation. One that makes sure the wealth pulled from African soil almost never benefits the people of Africa. This isn't a conspiracy of secret societies in smoke-filled rooms. It's a conspiracy of interests, an open secret that connects the mud of a Ghanaian village to the gleaming vaults of international finance. The viral video is raw. You see these young men, covered in dirt, struggling to lift this huge, mud-caked rock. When they wash it, it glimmers. They explode with joy. In that one moment, they feel like kings. But the reality here is no fairy tale. These guys are what's known in Ghana as galamsey, unlicensed, illegal miners. And while we don't know if their find was real, the video put a spotlight on the dangerous, desperate world of artisanal mining that lives in the shadows of Ghana's official gold business. To get what this rock means, you have to understand that Ghana, Africa's top gold producer, and one of the largest in the world, has two parallel universes when it comes to gold mining. First, there's the world of big industrial mining. This is the official face of Ghana's gold. It's run by giant multinational corporations. American companies like Nugget and others from Canada and South Africa. They use massive machinery and advanced tech to run huge open-pit mines. It's all legal, regulated, and they pay taxes and royalties to the government. But this is where the first crack in the system shows up. Even with all the wealth these foreign companies pull out, the Ghanaian government often gets a tiny piece of the pie, sometimes as little as 10%. The vast majority of the wealth flows right back out of the country. Then there's the second universe, the one that rock came from. This is the world of artisanal and small-scale mining, or ASGM. By law, this is supposed to be only for Ghanaians, a way for local people to have a stake in their country's biggest resource. Over 1 million Ghanaians work in this sector, and it supports the lives of millions more. It's a huge part of the rural economy. But here's the catch. Some estimates say as high as 85% of these small-scale miners are working informally, or to put it bluntly, illegally. This is galamsey. The word is a local twist on gather and sell, and it perfectly captures the raw, often desperate work. It's driven by a simple, brutal truth. There are no other jobs. For millions of young Ghanaians facing unemployment, galamsey feels like the only option. They dig in dangerous pits that can collapse at any second. They risk it all. And when they do strike gold, a huge, shadowy network kicks into gear to make sure that the wealth they just found gets spirited away, far from any tax collector and far from helping the nation. That rock, real or not, is ground zero for a journey into the dark heart of the global gold trade. So what happens when a group of miners pulls a real chunk of gold from the ground? It's not declared to the government. It's not counted in the official export numbers. It just vanishes into a multi-billion-dollar ghost economy. This is where we follow the money, or in this case, the gold. The journey starts right there in the pit. The galamsey miners are outside the law, so they can't sell on the legal market. They sell to a local buyer, the first link in a long smuggling chain, who pays them in cash. No questions, no paperwork. From there, the gold starts its secret trip out of the country. This isn't a new problem, but the scale is insane. A recent report from the Swiss NGO Swissaid dropped a bombshell. Between 2019 and 2023, there was a gap of 229 metric tons between the gold Ghana said it exported and what other countries said they imported from Ghana. That missing gold is worth a staggering $11.4 billion. That's enough money to completely change Ghana's economy, just lost to smugglers in 5 years. How is that even possible? The methods are surprisingly simple. Gold is smuggled across Ghana's porous borders into neighboring countries like Togo and Burkina Faso, where the rules are looser. There, the gold's origin gets washed away before it's re-exported. But the main destination, the hub of this whole illicit web, is the United Arab Emirates, specifically Dubai. According to that same Swissaid report, the UAE is the top destination for undeclared African gold. Between 2012 and 2022, the UAE imported over 2,500 tons of undeclared gold from Africa, worth over $115 billion. The system exploits a crazy loophole. Couriers can often carry gold into Dubai in their hand luggage without declaring it, making it almost impossible to trace where it came from. This isn't just about dodging taxes. This system is a superhighway for transnational organized crime. Untraceable gold is the perfect tool for money laundering. Criminal syndicates and even extremist groups in the region can use these networks to turn dirty cash into a stable, anonymous asset. And the whole thing has been turbocharged by foreign involvement. Foreign nationals, especially from China, have brought bigger and better machines into the Galamsey world, like excavators and mobile washing plants called chanfangs. This ramps up the speed of extraction, but it also ramps up the environmental damage and draws in outside financiers who help fund the illegal operations and smuggle the gold out. The story of smuggled Nugget is the story of this trail, pulled from Ghanaian soil by Ghanaian hands, then funneled through a network of smugglers and foreign fixers. Its value isn't calculated in a government treasury, but in the backroom of an illegal trader. Its final destination isn't a new school or hospital in Ghana, but a refinery in Dubai or a vault in Switzerland. There, its chaotic and bloody origin story is washed clean, and it becomes just another anonymous gold bar on the global market. That $11 billion figure isn't just a number. It's a measure of a stolen future. But the real cost, the price paid every single day, is written on the land and in the bodies of the Ghanaian people. It starts with the environment. The illegal mining that unearths this gold is an ecological disaster. To separate tiny flecks of gold from tons of ore, Galamsey miners use toxic chemicals like mercury and cyanide. They're cheap, but they're deadly. Miners, often with no protective gear, mix mercury with muddy ore by hand. The mercury latches onto the gold, and they burn the mixture to vaporize the mercury, leaving the gold behind. That toxic vapor is breathed in by everyone nearby, causing severe neurological damage, kidney failure, and birth defects. What doesn't get burned is just dumped into the rivers. Today, over 60% of Ghana's water bodies are polluted. Their waters are murky, toxic brown. Rivers that were once the source of drinking water and fish are now biologically dead in many places. The situation is so bad that Ghana's water regulator has warned the country might have to start importing clean water by 2030 if things don't change. Think about that cruel irony. A country is trading its water for gold, but never even sees the profits from the gold. The land itself is being sacrificed. To get to the gold, entire forests are cleared. -34 of Ghana's protected forest reserves are already scoured by illegal mining. Cocoa farms, the backbone of another major Ghanaian industry, are being wiped out. the landscape left behind is a moonscape, pockmarked with abandoned pits that fill with stagnant, malaria-breeding water. The topsoil is gone, rendering the land useless for generations. And then there's the human cost. For the Galamsey miners, life is cheap. The pits they dig are unstable, and deadly collapses are common. The lure of quick cash pulls boys out of school and traps young girls in a world of exploitation that springs up around the mining camps. This whole tragedy is a textbook example of the resource curse. It's a phenomenon where countries with incredible natural wealth somehow end up with less economic growth and worse development than countries with fewer resources. The sudden rush of money from one source warps the economy, fuels corruption, and attracts predators who are all too happy to help mismanage the windfall. The resource, instead of a blessing, becomes a curse that poisons the water, destroys the land, and leaves the very people who should be benefiting in crushing poverty. So who's really to blame? It's easy to point a finger at the Galamsey miners, but they are just the last, desperate links in a much bigger chain. To see the real conspiracy, you have to zoom out from the mud pits and look at the global system that not only allows this to happen, but actually profits from it. The roots go deep, all the way back to Ghana's colonial past, when it was known as the Gold Coast. That wasn't a name its people chose. It was a label given by European traders, defining the land by the one thing they wanted from it. The colonial model was simple: take raw materials for cheap, ship them to Europe to be manufactured, and then sell the finished goods back to the colonies. The whole system was built for one thing: extraction for foreign benefit. When colonialism officially ended, the system didn't. It just changed its clothes. Colonial bosses were replaced by multinational CEOs. Political dominance evolved into economic dominance, a system often called neo-colonialism. Today, that system is run by a few key players. First, you have the big multinational mining companies. While they operate legally, their business models are often designed to pay as little tax as possible in the countries where they operate. Using complex corporate structures and tax loopholes, they shift profits out of places like Ghana, leaving just a fraction of the wealth behind. Second are the foreign enablers of the illegal Galamsey trade. These are the international players who supply the money and machines that have turned a small-scale problem into an industrial crisis. They work in the shadows, financing the very activity that wrecks the environment and undermines the state, all for a steady supply of cheap, untaxed gold. Third, and this is crucial, are the international markets and refineries that absorb all this gold. Refineries in places like Switzerland and the UAE are the gatekeepers. They take in raw gold from countless sources and melt it down into the standard bars traded on global exchanges. And while they claim to have due diligence, the smuggling networks are so murky that it's nearly impossible to guarantee their supply chains are clean. Once a smuggled nugget is melted down and mixed with other gold, its dark past is erased. It becomes anonymous, ready to be sold to the world's most respected jewelers, tech companies, and central banks. Your wedding ring, the circuit board in your laptop, they might just contain atoms of gold that started their journey in a poisoned Ghanaian river. This is the conspiracy. It's not one bad guy, but a convergence of interests. The interest of corporations in maximizing profit, of smugglers in avoiding taxes, of refineries in a steady supply of material, and of all of us in cheap electronics and luxury goods. Every player benefits from a system that demands a constant flow of cheap, untraceable gold. And the ultimate price for that gold is paid by the people of Ghana. For decades, the story of Ghana's gold has been one of loss. But stories can change. Across Ghana, a fight back has begun. A monumental effort to rewrite the rules. This isn't just talk. Starting in 2021, the Bank of Ghana launched a domestic gold purchase program. A major step to start buying gold directly from local sources to build up the nation's own reserves. Building on that, in early 2025, the government established a new powerful state agency, the Ghana Gold Board, or Goldbod. Its mandate is to become the main channel for buying, selling, and exporting all gold from the small-scale sector, aiming to cut out the smugglers and illicit buyers who bleed the economy dry. The goal is to formalize the entire industry by giving miners a legitimate, reliable place to sell their gold at fair international prices. Every gram that passes through Goldbod is a gram that can be properly taxed, its value recorded, and the foreign currency from its sale brought back to support Ghana's economy. It's a direct assault on the billion-dollar ghost economy, and early signs are promising. In the first 5 months of 2025 alone, Ghana recorded over $5 billion in official gold exports, a historic high that suggests the new reforms are starting to plug the leaks. But a new rule is useless without enforcement. Recognizing this, in July 2025, the Ghanaian president inaugurated a new, specialized Goldbod task force. This isn't just another committee. It's a multi-agency unit made up of the military and police, empowered to raid illegal sites, destroy equipment, and arrest anyone involved, both Ghanaians and foreign nationals. To fight corruption inside the force itself, members will wear body cameras, and the government is even offering a 10% bounty to any citizen whose tip leads to the seizure of smuggled gold. This is a war being fought on multiple fronts: legislative, economic, and on the ground. It is Ghana's declaration of economic sovereignty. Of course, the challenges are immense. Smuggling networks are deeply entrenched and corruption is always a threat. The fight will require sustained effort and international cooperation from countries like the UAE to tighten their own import rules. But for the first time in a long time, there is a tangible strategy and a sense of political will to confront the system of exploitation head-on. We started with a single viral video of a rock, a symbol of so much stolen potential. Whether it was real gold or not, it exposed a global system that runs on poverty and environmental ruin. We followed the likely path of a smuggled nugget from a muddy pit in Ghana, through the hands of criminals, to the international markets where its origins are washed clean. We saw the real cost: the poisoned rivers, the broken communities, the stolen future. But the story doesn't end in despair. The creation of Goldbod and the new anti-smuggling task force is a watershed moment. It's a powerful statement that the wealth of Africa must finally belong to the people of Africa. The fight is far from over, and success isn't guaranteed. But it all begins with awareness. This system of exploitation thrives when the world isn't watching, when no one asks where their gold comes from. By understanding this story, you are no longer just a passive observer. Awareness is the first step toward accountability. Share this video. Share it to shine a light on the fight for economic justice that is happening right now, not just in Ghana, but across the continent. Support the nations and the people who are finally standing up to a legacy of exploitation and demanding a new future. Because what that rock represents is now a choice. A choice between continuing a global system that plunders a continent, or demanding a future where Africa's immense wealth is finally used to build Africa's prosperity. Every year, the world spends somewhere around $130 billion on chocolate. It's a symbol of luxury, comfort, and celebration. A global obsession you can find everywhere, from fancy candy shops in Brussels to the checkout aisle at your local supermarket. But here's the crazy part. The African nations that grow over 60% of the main ingredient, cocoa, see less than 6% of that money. For decades, this has been the accepted, brutal reality of how the world gets its chocolate. A system where back-breaking farm work on one continent generates incredible wealth on another. But now Ghana, the world's second biggest cocoa producer, is basically saying enough. The country that has historically exported almost all of its precious beans is making a bold, high-stakes bet to walk away from the very system that has kept its farmers poor. They aren't just asking for a bigger slice of the pie. They're trying to build their own bakery. This is the story of how a nation is trying to leave a broken market behind to build a chocolate empire from the ground up. A move to reclaim its wealth, its identity, and its future. This isn't just about chocolate. It's about economic freedom. To really get what a huge deal this is, you first have to understand the massive contradiction at the heart of the cocoa industry. It's a paradox so stark it almost doesn't make sense. West Africa, mainly Ghana and its neighbor, Côte d'Ivoire, are the undisputed kings of cocoa. Together, they supply over 60% of the entire world's beans. Just think about that. More than half of every chocolate bar, every box of truffles, every chocolate cake on the planet starts as a humble bean on a West African farm. In Ghana, the saying "Cocoa is Ghana" and "Ghana is cocoa" isn't just a slogan. It's a core part of the national identity. The crop used to be a massive part of the country's export earnings, but with the growth of gold and oil, its share has fallen to under 10%. Still, it brings in around $2 billion a year and supports over 800,000 farming families. And yet, all that agricultural dominance has translated to just a tiny fraction of the industry's total value. The global chocolate market is a monster, worth over $130 billion and growing. But the countries doing the hardest work are left with crumbs. They handle the most labor-intensive part of the process: planting, nurturing, harvesting, only to watch the vast majority of the profits flow overseas. The real money isn't in the bean, it's in the bar. It's made in the processing, manufacturing, branding, and selling, which mostly happens in Europe and North America. The Netherlands, the United States, and Germany are some of the top importers of Ghana's raw beans, where they get transformed into the expensive products that line our shelves. This economic imbalance creates a vicious cycle. Ghana exports its raw wealth and then imports finished goods, often made from the very beans it sold for pennies on the dollar. You can walk into a supermarket in Accra and see shelves filled with foreign chocolate brands, many proudly advertising they're made with fine Ghanaian cocoa. It feels like a system stuck in the past, a colonial trade structure that never really went away. It has trapped generations of farmers in poverty, with many earning less than $1 a day for years, far below the extreme poverty line. And it has left Ghana's economy vulnerable, tied to the fluctuating global prices of a single raw commodity. This isn't just an economic problem. It's a profound injustice. And it's this paradox that Ghana is now determined to shatter. Statistics about billions of dollars and market shares can feel abstract. To understand the real cost of this system, you have to leave the world of global trade reports and step onto the red earth of a Ghanaian cocoa farm. Here, the story isn't told in numbers, but in the sweat and struggle of people like Kwabena, a smallholder farmer in the Ashanti region, one of Ghana's cocoa heartlands. Kwabena's day starts before the sun, when the air is still cool and damp. He's in his 50s, but the years of hard labor have carved deep lines into his face. His farm is small, just a few hectares of cocoa trees passed down through his family. It's more than just land. It's his heritage and his children's future. But that future feels shakier every year. The work is relentless and deeply manual. Kwabena and his family use machines to clear weeds. They watch the skies, praying for the right mix of rain and sun, a balance that climate change is making totally unpredictable. When the pods ripen to a vibrant yellow-orange, the harvest begins. Each pod is carefully cut from the tree by hand. Then comes the crucial part, breaking them open, again by hand, to scoop out the slimy, pulp-covered beans. Those beans are then piled into mounds, covered with plantain leaves, and left to ferment for about a week. This is what develops that rich, chocolatey flavor. After fermenting, the beans are spread on large mats under the hot sun to dry for another week. All this time, Kwabena has to be vigilant, ready to rush and cover them if an unexpected shower rolls in. For all this painstaking, year-round work, the reward has been shockingly small for decades. By law, Kwabena must sell his beans to a state-run monopoly, the Ghana Cocoa Board. For years, the fixed-price cocoa board set barely covered his costs. Recently, facing farmer anger and massive smuggling, the government dramatically raised the price, giving farmers around 70% of the world market price. While a huge improvement, it doesn't solve everything. It creates a poverty trap that's hard to escape. Kwabena still struggles to afford fertilizers and pesticides to fight devastating diseases like the cocoa swollen shoot virus, which has wiped out huge areas of farmland. He worries about the future. The average cocoa farmer in Ghana is 55 years old. Younger generations see the struggle and want out. They're leaving the farms for the cities or, even worse, for the lure of illegal gold mining, known as galamsey, which offers quick cash but destroys the very land they need to survive. The injustice is easy to see. Kwabena knows his beans are considered some of the best in the world, premium quality sought after by the biggest chocolate companies. Yet, he will likely never be able to afford the expensive, beautifully packaged chocolate bars made from his harvest. His reality is the raw bean, sold for a price that keeps his family perpetually on the edge. This is the human cost of the paradox, and it's for Kwabena and the 800,000 other farmer families like his that Ghana is trying to change the game. So how did a country so rich in a valuable resource end up on the poor end of the deal? Well, the current system wasn't an accident. It's a direct legacy of a colonial past, an economic structure built for one thing: extraction. The story of cocoa in Ghana is tied up with the story of the British Empire. A Ghanaian blacksmith named Tete Kwashi is credited with bringing the first cocoa pods to the country in 1879, kicking off an agricultural boom. Local farmers jumped on the opportunity, and by 1911, the Gold Coast, as it was called then, became the world's biggest cocoa producer. But the trade was set up on colonial terms. The British administration and European companies weren't interested in building a chocolate industry in Africa. Their goal was simple: get a cheap, reliable supply of raw materials for their factories back home. They created a system designed to funnel raw cocoa beans out of the country as fast as possible. In 1947, they established the Cocoa Marketing Board, the direct ancestor of today's Cocoa Board. On paper, it was meant to give farmers a fair price. In reality, it created a state-controlled monopoly that set prices and controlled all the money. For the colonial government, it was a great way to raise revenue: buy low from farmers, sell high on the world market. When Ghana won its independence in 1957, it inherited this system and kept it. The new government saw the board as a cash cow to fund the development of the new nation, building roads, schools, and hospitals. For a while, it worked. But the core logic never changed. The focus was always on exporting the raw bean. Almost no investment went into building local factories to process the cocoa. Why build your own chocolate industry when you could just sell the beans to giants like Cadbury, Hershey's, and Nestle? The global players, companies like Cargill, Olam, and Barry Callebaut, built their empires on this model. They perfected the art of processing, turning bitter beans into cocoa liquor, butter, and powder. They captured almost all the value. For a century, the global chocolate industry was built on a simple assumption: Africa would grow the beans, and the West would make the chocolate. This colonial echo is still felt today. For a long time, restrictive laws made it difficult for private citizens to process their own cocoa. While reforms have opened the door for local entrepreneurs, that old structure created a deep dependency and starved the local economy of the chance to industrialize. It's this century-old economic scaffolding that a new generation in Ghana is now trying to tear down. There's this business term called value addition, and it is the absolute key to this whole story. It's the difference between growing a crop and owning the factory. It's the difference between earning cents and earning dollars. Think of a cocoa bean's journey as a ladder. For a century, Ghana has been standing on the bottom rung. Let's break it down. The first rung is harvesting raw beans. This is our farmer, Kwabena. He has a sack of dried, fermented beans. At this stage, it's just a raw farm product. He sells this sack at the government set price. For decades, this is where Ghana got off the ladder. The vast majority of the country's cocoa is still exported in this raw form. Now, that sack of beans gets loaded onto a ship and sent to a place like Amsterdam, the world's biggest cocoa port. Here, it enters a huge factory owned by one of the global giants. This is where the real money-making starts. The second rung is roasting and grinding. The beans are roasted to bring out that chocolatey flavor. The shells are removed, and the inner part, the nib, is ground into a thick, dark paste called cocoa liquor. Right there, the value has already shot up. That liquor is worth way more than the raw beans it came from. The third rung is pressing and separation. The cocoa liquor is squeezed in a powerful press, separating the fatty, pale yellow cocoa butter, a super valuable ingredient used in chocolate, cosmetics, and medicine. What's left over is a solid puck of cocoa, which is crushed into the cocoa powder we use for baking. So now, the processor has two valuable products: cocoa butter and cocoa powder, from one original ingredient. The value has been added again. The final, and most profitable, rung is conching and manufacturing. This is the chocolate-making magic. A chocolatier takes the cocoa liquor, adds extra cocoa butter, sugar, maybe some milk powder, and puts it all in a machine called a conch. This machine grinds and mixes the ingredients for hours or even days, creating that smooth, melt-in-your-mouth texture. It's then molded into bars, wrapped in fancy packaging, and given a brand name. That original kilogram of beans that the farmer sold for a couple of dollars is now part of a finished chocolate bar that sells for the equivalent of $20, $30, or even more. The journey from bean to bar is a story of escalating value. But Ghana has only been part of the first chapter. The new plan is to build the factories, buy the machines, and climb that ladder themselves, keeping every single dollar of added value right at home. For years, talk about adding value was just that, talk. But recently, the tone has changed from a vague hope to an urgent national mission. The Ghanaian government, facing unpredictable revenues and persistent farmer poverty, has signaled a massive shift in strategy. This is the pivot. The moment a country decides the old way just isn't working anymore. The government has put the world on notice. The era of earning peanuts from a multi-billion-dollar industry is over. The most powerful message is a new, aggressive policy goal: to process at least 50% of its cocoa locally in the coming years. This isn't a small tweak, it's a tectonic shift. While not yet a full ban on raw bean exports, it's a clear threat and a declaration of economic independence. The logic is simple and powerful. Why should Ghana keep supplying the raw materials for Europe's chocolate industry, only to import finished chocolate at a huge markup? Why not build the factories to do it all at home? The government's vision is to create a powerful link between its farms and its factories. They don't just want to grow cocoa. They want to use that cocoa to create skilled jobs for chocolatiers and technicians and turn the Made in Ghana label into a global symbol of quality. And this isn't just happening in Ghana. It's part of a bigger awakening across the continent. From lithium in Zimbabwe to coffee in Uganda, African nations are starting to challenge the old economic models. They're realizing their real wealth isn't just in the ground. It's in their ability to process, manufacture, and sell finished goods. It's a quiet revolution to reclaim economic power. To hit that 50% processing target, Ghana needs a huge mobilization of money, technology, and skills. It means creating an environment where local businesses can thrive, where factories have reliable power, and where Ghanaian chocolate can compete on the world stage. Of course, a move this bold is full of risk. The global chocolate industry is a powerful, deeply entrenched system. The big processors in Europe and America won't just stand by and watch. Limiting the supply of raw beans could send shockwaves through the market, causing price spikes and forcing companies to look elsewhere. It also puts immense pressure on Ghana. Can it build the factories fast enough? Can it make sure farmers don't get hurt in the transition? These are the billion-dollar questions. But for the first time, the will to try seems to be stronger than the fear of failure. The declaration has been made. Now, the hard work begins. Government policies can set the stage, but the real revolution is happening on the ground. It's being fought not in boardrooms, but in small factories and kitchens across Ghana by a new generation of entrepreneurs. They are the pioneers building Ghana's chocolate future, one bar at a time. Take 57 Chocolate. The name itself is a shout-out to 1957, the year Ghana won its independence. It was founded by two sisters, Kimberly and Priscilla Addison, after they visited a chocolate factory in Switzerland and had a light bulb moment. They saw the world celebrating Swiss chocolate made with cocoa from their home country and asked the obvious question: why can't we do this in Ghana? They came home, trained as chocolatiers, and in 2016, launched 57 as a bean-to-bar company. They do everything from roasting the beans to designing the beautiful packaging, which often features Adinkra symbols from Ghanaian heritage. Then there's Niche Cocoa. This is a story about going big. Founded in 2011, Niche is now the largest privately owned cocoa processor in Ghana. The company was built specifically to prove that large-scale processing could be done locally. They produce the semi-finished goods, cocoa liquor, butter, and powder, that supply the global industry. But crucially, they've also climbed to the top of the ladder, making their own line of chocolate bars and spreads for sale at home and abroad. Niche is proof that world-class manufacturing can be led by Ghanaians. And you have to know about Ferrofric. This German-Ghanaian company takes the idea of fairness to its logical conclusion. Their whole mission is to decolonize chocolate by making it 100% in Africa. They argue that traditional fair trade is a good start, but it isn't enough if the most profitable jobs are still in Europe. By building their own state-of-the-art, solar-powered factory in rural Ghana, they make sure that the wealth from manufacturing stays in the community, creating skilled, non-farm jobs. They even started the first formal chocolate-making school in the country. These are just a few of the people leading the charge. There are others, like Mejunu Chocolates, which infuses its creations with unique African spices, and countless smaller entrepreneurs. They all face huge hurdles, from unstable electricity to competing with giant global brands. But they share a powerful belief that Ghana's cocoa is a treasure, and the time has come for Ghanaians to be the ones to shape it, sell it, and profit from it. They aren't just making candy, they're building a new economic reality. Ghana's plan to keep more of its cocoa beans for itself isn't just a local issue. It's a stone thrown into the calm pond of the global chocolate industry, and the ripples could become a tidal wave. For a century, the world's chocolate titans, Nestlé, Mars, Hershey, Callebaut, have built their empires on a simple foundation: cheap, plentiful cocoa from West Africa. Ghana's move threatens to crack that foundation. The most immediate effect would be on supply. Ghana is the world's #2 producer. If its raw beans suddenly become harder to get, it creates a massive hole in the market. Chocolate makers with supply chains built around Ghanaian cocoa would be sent scrambling. This would almost certainly cause even more price chaos. The cocoa market is already seeing record high prices because of bad harvests and disease. So a supply shock like this could push prices to unbelievable levels. This puts the big chocolate companies in a tough spot. They're already talking about unprecedented cocoa cost inflation. They have two real choices: absorb the higher costs and watch their profits shrink, or pass the cost on to us. That means the price of your favorite chocolate bar could go up, and stay up. It would also trigger a global hunt for new sources. Companies would look to other cocoa-producing countries in Latin America and Asia to fill the gap, which could create a whole new set of environmental and social issues in those places. But this isn't just about disruption. It's about a potential shift in power. If Ghana succeeds, it could inspire other countries to do the same. What if Côte d'Ivoire, the world's biggest producer, joins in? Together, they could form a kind of OPEC for cocoa, holding huge influence over the market and completely changing the terms of trade. This might force the big players to change their business models. Instead of just buying raw beans, they might have to start investing directly in factories inside Ghana, becoming partners instead of just customers. The very structure of the industry, which has been frozen in time for 100 years, would be forced to evolve. This is a high-stakes game of economic chicken. The global industry is betting that Ghana can't pull it off. Ghana is betting that the world needs its cocoa more than it needs the old broken system. The outcome won't just decide the future of chocolate. It could set a powerful example for resource-rich nations everywhere. The dream of a Ghanaian chocolate empire is a powerful one. But the road from here to there is full of massive obstacles. This isn't a simple switch you can just flip. The first and biggest hurdle is money and machines. Building an industry big enough to process over 500,000 metric tons of cocoa a year requires a mind-boggling amount of investment. These aren't small sheds. They are huge factories that need state-of-the-art equipment, a reliable power grid in a country known for outages, clean water, and advanced logistics. Getting the billions of dollars needed to build all this is a huge challenge. The second problem is competition. It's one thing to make great chocolate. It's another thing to sell it. The global candy market is controlled by a few multinational giants with endless marketing budgets and distribution networks. A new Ghanaian brand has to fight for shelf space in supermarkets from Tokyo to Toronto. It's a true David versus Goliath battle. A third, and very modern, hurdle is the European Union's deforestation regulation, EUDR. The EU, Ghana's biggest customer, has passed a law that will ban any products linked to deforestation. Companies will have to prove, with data, that their cocoa didn't come from land that was cleared after 2020. This puts huge pressure on Ghana, where cocoa farming has been a major cause of deforestation. To comply, Ghana needs a traceability system that can map every single one of its 800,000 farms, a massive undertaking. If it fails, its cocoa, raw or processed, could be locked out of its most important market. Finally, and most importantly, there's a risk to the farmers themselves. If a ban on raw exports is managed badly, it could be a disaster for the very people it's supposed to help. If the local factories aren't ready to buy the entire harvest, farmers could be left with beans they can't sell. The transition has to be handled perfectly, guaranteeing that farmers get paid a fair price on time. Without the trust and well-being of its farmers, this whole bold plan falls apart. The story of Ghana and its cocoa is more than just about business. It's a test of a nation's will to rewrite its own story. For a century, Ghana has been a key part of a global machine that made other people rich. It played by the rules of a game that was rigged from the start. A game that rewarded the processor over the producer, the brand over the bean. The result was a cycle of dependency, where a country known for cocoa had farmers living in poverty. Now, Ghana is trying something radical. The plan to stop being just a raw material supplier and to build a chocolate empire from the ground up is a powerful statement. It's a rejection of the colonial economic patterns that have lingered for decades. It's a declaration that the value of Ghanaian work and Ghanaian resources should stay in Ghana. The pioneers on the ground, the sisters at 57, the industrialists at Niche, the visionaries at Ferrofric, are already proving this isn't just a dream. They're making world-class products and challenging what made in Ghana means. They are the face of a decolonized chocolate industry. But the road ahead is full of risk. Powerful global interests, massive infrastructure gaps, and tough new regulations are all standing in the way. Success is far from guaranteed. It will take incredible political courage, smart investment, and a total commitment to making sure the profits reach the farmers who started it all. In the end, this is a story about what value really means. It challenges all of us to recognize that the price of a product should be connected to the people and the land that created it. Whether Ghana succeeds is a story that's still being written. But by trying, it's lighting a path for other nations to follow, a path toward building a future on their own terms. The sweet taste of chocolate may never feel the same again, and maybe, for the sake of fairness, it shouldn't. The story of Ghana's cocoa revolution is happening right now, and it's a huge test case for economic change around the world. What do you think? Is this a crazy gamble or a long overdue step towards true economic freedom? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you think stories like this matter, about nations trying to take back control, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss how this incredible journey turns out.